We bring you the 3 C's of destination marketing. Co-create, cooperate, and collaborate. With that, let's bring in our panelists. The chairperson of our topic discussion, please welcome Mr. Prashant Saha on stage. Round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Miss Maria George, on stage, please. Mr. Girish. And Mr. Guru Prasad. A very brief introduction, ladies and gentlemen. As all of you know, Mr. Prashant Saha is the CEO of SIM Global. We have on stage Ms. Maria George, Health Tourism Professional IMTJ. We also have Mr. Girish of Colot Network, and we have Mr. Guru Prasad, Managing Partner, Biz Globetrotters. Ms. Maria is a health tourism professional. She's also the regional manager of Intuition Communication UK for several countries. She's a graduate of the University of Leicester with studies in business administration. She's also an awarded writer of 2 books. Her interviews have been published in local and international web, press, and TV media. Can we have a round of applause for Ms. Maria? Next, we have Mr. Girish of Colot Network. Girish KJ comes with over 18 years of experience in the field of events. He truly combines the discipline of communication and marketing with the brand, creating unique ideas and experiences. His expertise truly lies in building a business and an organization by bringing together a group of people and executing global solutions. He's worked and has clientele with brands like IBM, iGate, Timken, Intel, and Microsoft. Can we also make him feel warm and special today? The last but not the least, his name says it all. He is the Guru. Mr. Guru Prasad is the managing partner of Biz Globetrotters. He's a commerce graduate from Delhi University. Interest in experiencing the world took him to a career of business travel and tourism spanning over 3 decades. Well, he's also moved on to start his own medical tourism company after the airlines moved on to web-based selling. Over 3 decades, he has facilitated the growth of several leading international airlines in India and overseas, enabled successful top-level business conferences, and actively promoted tourism. And of course, he's won many awards and recognitions for the same. Please put your hands together for Mr. Guru Prasad. Over to Mr. Prashant Saha.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Welcome back again after this brief tea break, and I'm sure our first inaugural session was invigorating enough for you to start thinking towards what Maria also mentioned, very powerful messages. Discussion today at this panel, I'm going to keep it very, very focused and interactive. Rather than a monologue, we want participation from audience so that we are able to answer this question. So we are talking about destination marketing. Now, in this context, of course, when we are at this platform of healthcare tourism, we are going to address how this healthcare or affordability or quality of healthcare can also impact in terms of destination marketing, or vice versa, how a destination can position themselves to attract this kind of people. It's not just only health care, but it's a whole lot of things from airport to airport or a port to port experience that each individual, they get it here. So, Maria, you have been in this for a long time, and you've been writing and talking and teaching also. I'm going to come to 3 of you simultaneously. In a sense, you could answer very briefly before we go back to them. What are the top ingredients a destination should have in terms of positioning themselves as, of course, a destination for tourism, and especially in the context of the health tourism that we are talking about?
Well, hello. This is a very good question. More or less, I'm covering this topic with my presentation later. We don't believe that price is an issue, as Dr. Todd said before. We believe that there is a line of factors that define a destination competitiveness and attractiveness. Destination image is one of them. The risk is another one. Price, of course, is another one. And there are some other factors which I'm going to elaborate a little more with my presentation.
Hello. I'm a medical tourism facilitator. And when I promote the Globetrotters healthcare services, what becomes important to my patients is they want to know how we take care of them. It's not mostly about price. The moment they have decided to come to India for treatment, price is not a factor because they already know that it is economical and we have the best doctors. They want to know how we take care of them. That is the perspective I give to my patients. Thank you.
Girish, you have been positioning the destination through various initiatives from an event, festival, that way. Of course, people coming here for a medical tourism, of course, also looking at not just the treatment part of it, because quite a lot of treatment they come for are not really very critical in nature. Could be cosmetic, could be dentist, which are not life critical. Okay, so in that, they also come for this whole holistic experience, what that city offers, and how they can identify with the city. You know, because medical treatments are not only one time, there could be some follow-up visits, or that person could also become a brand ambassador for other people to bring in. So the city experience all counts. So how Bangalore, let's say if we take Bangalore, talk about Bangalore, how Bangalore can do, apart from this technical part of it, in terms of positioning the city?
Yeah, Sahata. So it's one thing which a lot of state governments have been grappling with, how to do city, city marketing or city branding. But let me go back to what Maria told. She had a very pertinent point. The first point is, you had to have the entire supply chain of services sensitized to medical tourism. That's very important thing. I'm not getting the price debate because I'm not qualified to do that. We can just tell you the city experience of it. The point is, if a person comes in and are we as a city sensitized in terms of like a person who's on a wheelchair and he wants to go to the Vidhan Sauda, does it have access? The other buses, do they have access into it? These are things which we need to look into these things. One. Two is, if people come in, and the second point I want to make is from a tourism point of view, each city in India has a huge, and I think very, very, untapped potential for tourism, which we haven't even looked at. I'll give you an example. First day I was in Kochi. I was at the Kochi Muzras Biennale, for those of you who haven't heard of it. So you have a lot of, the spice markets and go-downs, which are actually derelict and dying, maybe before 2010. Now, two artists came together. And this entire area, they worked along with the government, and they co-created something called the Kochi Muzras Biennale. And that word Kochi Muzras itself it's a masterstroke in branding, in the city branding, because Muzras is what it was called 2,000 years ago. It is written in Roman literature, and they went on to put up a world-class biennale there. with tourists coming across the world, now they have that. Now what they've done is they've created a reason for people to come there. This runs from December 15th all the way till March end, the peak tourist season. Now everybody's going to benefit from that. I'm talking healthcare, non-healthcare, everybody is benefiting from that. People are coming, and the number of people who are coming is huge. And also maybe just a little bit more India specific. The tourism secretary went on record, it's there in, I think, Business Standard, Economic Times, and he said the Kochi Misras Biennale was what helped us tide over the demonetization effect from a tourism point of view. So if you actually sit down and look at each city has its own stories to be told. They have the spice route story, they've told that. Bangalore has its own story. We have Mysore has its own story. We can go on like that. Every city has its own stories, and these are things which we can bring together, and we can tell people, and we can give them a reason to keep coming back. And one more thing I just want to tell you, most of us know this, but all of us haven't seen all of India. It takes more than one lifetime to actually see everything in every part of the country. But you can bring a lot into a city and use Bangalore as a portal, especially for the Karnataka tourism people, to use it as a portal for people to come in and understand about Bangalore and Karnataka itself. You can create these things around.
Thank you, Girish. I think I would let audience pick up top 3 questions, which you could answer a little later. For the time being, I would like to invite Maria to make her presentation very briefly, and then we'll come to Girish. So please keep your thinking cap on and tell us 3 difficult questions which coming in your mind after the presentation is over. I'm going to come back to you. Yes, Maria.
Hello, another Maria comes on stage. Today, we're going to speak about the secrets of success and the recipe of failure for a destination. We have put together 7 factors, and of course, Steve McQueen that you see is not one of them. We believe that there are indeed 7 factors that have an impact on destination attractiveness and competitiveness. A competitive advantage is something that any country who wishes to develop in health tourism needs to create. Shortly, the factors have to do with geography, price, culture, image, environment, infrastructure, and of course, it has to do with the risk. Geography is very important. We almost always use this picture to our presentations because it reflects how medical travel works. People from particular countries travel usually to particular countries. Not all people from all countries travel to all other countries. This must be clear when you will target your markets. I also have the example of the English patient. We already have recorded some trends due to proximity or because they find what the type of service they need. They already have the trend of going to particular countries like Spain, Belgium, or Turkey. Proximity, of course, is important, and destination also has to be considered when we speak about a medical condition, because as you see, a lot of organizations do have restrictions after the surgery. Culture is also another important factor that should be taken into consideration. For the ones that already work with Arab countries, it's very clear that if you want to treat Arab patients, you have to take into consideration some particularities regarding, let's say, blood, or a female from the Arab countries cannot be examined by a male doctor anywhere in the world. And of course, when it goes to infertility with egg and sperm donation, you have to know that this type of patient will look for Muslim sperm or eggs. So in short, these are some examples of a type of patient that needs to be faced in a particular way. Every 2 years we run big surveys with treatment abroad. We ask a lot of people about their experience. And the feedback so far is rather positive for medical travelers. We see more than 85% that witness that the level of their language spoken in the country they traveled for was from well to extremely well, and more than 14% reported that they couldn't communicate well or they couldn't communicate at all. So language is a very important factor to have to be considered. Now we go again to the destination image that I mentioned before. From my experience, I can see, I have seen destinations being destroyed by their image. I have here just a few examples, like in Turkey, that nowadays they receive a lot of negative publicity. And I can say that cancellations to the Turkish hospitals do come faster than the drops of the rain. We do have another example of Thailand that for some reason has also received negative publicity from time to time. And now we will speak for infrastructure, which is another factor. Dr. Todd explained it very well before. I'm not gonna remain a lot at this point. A lot of destinations are popular, like for money management or entertainment, but not all destinations are appropriate for traveling for treatment. I have to squeeze my presentation a little because I have been asked to do faster, so we won't speak much about some particularities. Then it goes to the environment. Environment, of course, is very important, and when we speak about environment, it doesn't have to do only with the hospital, like the example of Malaysia or Hungary we see. Due to our survey, 88% of the people who travel for health travel with somebody else with them. It can be the husband or a friend, but somebody that has to help the patient. So when we speak about environment, you have to consider the general environment, because the other person might go out, have some lunch at the restaurant, do some sightseeing. So environment is also very, very important. And now we go to the risk, which is, I would say, a very tricky factor for most countries. You have to understand that when somebody travels for health, he would better prefer to have a treatment closer to his house. But the reason they travel is to have a good level of treatment and save some money. If these people will be disappointed by the treatment, announcements and news like the one you see will come out, and this will definitely harm the destination. And now we will go to the price. A lot of us already spoke about price. Due to our survey, you can see that price is an important factor, but the quality of the doctor is coming first, and then it's the quality of the facility. So price coexists with the other factors, but it's not only price. For my experience, for the years I work with Indian providers, and I can say I have spoken with thousands, not hundreds. Every time they approach me, they highlight the pricing in India. As Dr. Todd said, pricing is not everything. All other factors have to coexist in a good balance. So, this is all from me. For those of you who are deeply interested, we would be more than happy to see you with us in Croatia this year, that we organize the Medical Travel Summit and Awards, where we'll celebrate the excellence in medical travel. And we have the committee, the IMTJ committee has decided to provide a high discount of 30% to all the delegates of this conference. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Maria. Girish, if you could also, yes.
I'm speaking on co-creating experiences. It's mostly to do with the leisure part of healthcare tourism and how a city like Bangalore or any city in India can actually, and what more we can offer a tourist who comes in. I'll just run you through this. Okay, so what we found is one of the key things is to put people at the center. You know, in India, we have a very peculiar thing. We cannot bypass the local population. In fact, it runs in most of the places. You cannot have, let's say, a world-class casino plonked into a city, even though we are a non-gambling country. It creates social issues for us. We have always have to co-opt the local population into successful tourism endeavors. And this is something which has been happening through millennia in India. You know, something which is we have to be very sensitive about. Another thing which we always which we say is to leverage assets which are cultural, heritage or societal. We have around 2,500 years of recorded history. Our languages are one of the oldest in the world. Our religions, I think, leaving Shintoism, every other major religion in the world is practiced in India, and they are living religions. So we have that. And we have great stories to be told for each city, each region, each language. The food, if I'm a little familiar with Kerala, so I'll tell you that food from the Portuguese influences us heavily. There's a lot of, there's a food called istu, it's actually stew. But so you'll find a lot of heritage which is there. Lucknowi food, the culture of Lucknow is eroded, but the history rests in its food even now. You'll find that the niceties of things, the stories are there. So these experiences which we create are going to have a residual effect on society, culture. So what I mean is something which lives on, is not something which comes for 2 years and is gone. And the other part which I told you about the co-opting the community is because if the community owns your event, the tourist is going to be that much more happier about it. Because when the local person speaks about the event, that's when you know it's really successful. Now, through collaboration, we create value for stakeholders. So when I say stakeholders, primarily with the community, the government, investors into these projects, and visitors. And the key question is, why will they keep coming back to it? Now, stepping back in Karnataka, I know we have a huge wealth of all these assets, whether you want, tourism, wildlife tourism, coastal tourism, your heritage tourism, you want, people for the history buff, you have people we have people who just only look at the Raj tourism and they come into it, they are into it. Religious tourism, wellness tourism, they're all part of it. But once you co-create an experience, that's when it sets roots into the community and that's when it starts building. I'll just run you through one small example which we want to show. So this is the Kochi Mutras Biennale, which started in 2010. It was run by 3 artists who came together, and they said, why don't we create one of the world's largest art residency programs? And they did not think small. It's a huge, it's a fairly large city. They took the entire city and they created something called the Kochi Mutras Biennale. The next Biennale, if you want to watch, you have to go to Venice. And they brought world-class artists. Anish Kapoor came and showcased last year. I think you could get to watch Anish Kapoor at 100 rupees. Nowhere in India, or in the world would you get things like that. So this is what was, when I was in Kochi day first today, and this is what we saw. It says, so the auto driver says, it's my Biennale. And there's one more very interesting thing. So we had artists who worked, you can see a small horn there. So normally you have this honking, which tourists don't like most of the time because we're very loud, I know that. But so what they did was we had artists came in, and when these guys honked, you would have sounds of birds coming, like chirping, the local birds. So it sends a different message out, So let me tell you, it's very difficult to convince auto drivers in India about these things, but they actually did it. They have this, and this is how is what we call a Biennale for the people, by the people. And one more thing I realized, I said, okay, this is going to work because the auto driver could pronounce Biennale correctly, without, normally it goes through a lot of Indian thing, but, he was able to tell that. Now these are all dying buildings which were there on the waterfront. In any other, I looked at it and I said, man, if this is Bangalore, you would have had like some sky rises here by now. But they went back, they rejuvenated these, and these for around 90 days, in every 2 years they come alive. There are actually spice go-downs where the spice trade used to happen and the Portuguese used to come, and the Portuguese own these buildings, so you can see the architecture of that. So you have a lot of people from across the world who come in now. It's in its third edition, it's one of the most successful this year. So they created a huge art district, which went on to be that, it's right. You could not walk across Kochi or the Fort District or the Mattancherry area without seeing this. But actually, everyone were part of this particular initiative. People were willingly giving out the houses to be painted. I know the antique, markets. They came and they started clearing the places to get the artists to host them. These are the kind of things which are there around the place. So why would they now? I don't think they're going to demolish those buildings. They want to keep the heritage alive. Because you can't do this on concrete and glass. Let's face it. So that's how, the one at the bottom is actually what Anish Kapoor created. It's called Dissension. So it's traveling across the world now. So these are kind of things which people had created there. And so they did not stick to art alone. So this is another interesting thing. So they went back they started also involving theater. So this is called Chavitu Nadagam. It's a Portuguese influenced dance form which is very rare and it's dying. It's like tap dancing, but it's built by the Portuguese, and now the Indians have taken over, and they tell a lot of stories from the Bible and about the kings of Portugal, and it lives on, But because of the Biennale, it's been revived. People are seeing it for the first time. Other people never get to see it, and this is how art forms, continue to live. Now, also from Karnataka, I just want to tell you this: the Yakshagana was performed here. This is another, performance art from Karnataka, which is like Kathakali, but they're all sister dance, art forms. But it was performed there. So they did not stick only to art. They were not to music. They had the people from the streets. They used their own culture. They used culture from outside to create a product. And they had, this. I think 2 days ago, the president himself came down to watch it and be part of it. And so so that's and the center and the state government is now putting money back into it, telling they're going to give it a permanent residency there. So between the state and the investors and the community, they have a great project going. And this is what Dr. Venus, who's the secretary for tourism there, he said. This is what he said about the Biennale. It's there on the Economic Times. So I'm just running through what we see in Karnataka is much more in Bangalore, especially in a city like ours, which we have. We have great forms of, and these are all, people don't even know when this actually started. These are all, it could be at least 2,000-year-old dance forms, which people, Kathakali is younger than this. This is much more older. I'll show you something else. This is Bhutakola. Bhutakola this predates organized, the major religion. These are proto-religions. And they still live among us because, they haven't been invaded, they haven't been wiped out. But these are our cultural assets which we can showcase to people. And they have, and I might, even though I dare say these things, they have, for the local population, they have a lot of therapeutic and they bring a lot of solace to people. So in some parts of the country, through these people, the local peasants could not speak to the rulers. But this is actually a peasant in the deity of a god, but he could speak to the ruler and tell them, this is what you've been doing good and this is what you've been doing bad. And these are kind of things which actually protected the local populations. And there are thousands of stories like this which we could bring to cities, showcase to people, and then continue. And I have another concept which I call of 365 days of tourism. In fact, if you take one element in each city, you'll still run out of things to bring into the city. Because we have so much of things to showcase in each part of this country. So I'm just going into some smaller things for rejuvenation. This is a church which is there here. It's just 4 hours drive. A lot of people don't know this. It's called the Shettihalli Church. And it could be a beautiful venue for an event. And what the story of this event, of this church is, it's a beautiful story. It's like this church gets submerged every monsoon, and then it dries back up. So 6 months you have the place open. You can create a lot of things for people to go back. Just 4 hours from here, okay, you finish with Bangalore. We can show you. We can rejuvenate these assets for you. And next to it is another. The only second star-shaped fort in India is just next to this. So we could go on like that for a lot more things. So here's another thing which we are working on. It's called the Museum of the Kannada Language. Now, the Kannada language is a classical language. So we have Sanskrit, one of the oldest. We have Tamil, the oldest, and Karnataka, one of the 2,500 years old. We could create an interactive museum for this with the government. We can create it. We can create to showcase the evolution of it. How did it come about? We have. So Kannada is basically spoken, across the majority of Karnataka, but people from Coorg and from Tulu also use the Kannada script to write. A lot of people, don't know that. But so it's one of the big binding factors within Karnataka. But we don't have an institution where an actual tourists can come in and learn about these things. We could create, with projection mapping technology, we can create beautiful things where the people can actually, learn about these. So we also, use this to link back to the state, showcase different people and it's very, very beautiful to see how different people speak this particular language. How did it survive 2,500 years? Now the tourism department does a beautiful thing. We can make packages for them to take it across the world. Now again, so when we said co-create, I said we can put in the Kannada ministry, the culture ministry, the tourism ministry, and we can bring this up. Now this asset is for who? It's for the people of Bangalore, and it's going to be a cultural thing which is going to live for a lot more time. Now I'm just giving you another glimpse of this. These are all small parts of Bangalore which are not very well publicized. That's the Tipu's palace here. That's the Freedom Park. There's again the Tipu's palace, and next to it actually is the Bangalore Fort, not the Bangalore Palace. And these are all places which after 5:30 are dead, And where does the tourist go in the evening? Like you can't keep ending up in a pub every day. We can give you beautiful places. We can tell stories with technology. We can bring these things alive. And this is how we can keep the city and its culture, language. I showed you I can get you Bhutakala performances here. We can create, and we can have stories and narrations which run on. So, I can take on each city, each region, language, food. We can bring these things to these places. And it can be run by people. We can train people to run them. It's not very complicated. The arts, handicrafts, textiles, heritage, all this can be brought around these places. So that's, I'm just bringing it short for you just to give you a glimpse on what we could do. Thank you.
Thank you, Krish. Time for taking some questions. In case you have, gentlemen, do I see any hand here? Yes, please give him the hand, please. Sir, please tell your name, where you're from, and who this question is for.
Sure. My name is Sanjay. I come from a city that sounds very similar to Bangalore, the city of Mangalore or Mangaluru, the city where Girish, showed the pictures of Bhutakola and Yakshagana originate from. And this is just a comment to add to the panel. The city of Mangalore has three most important things about medical tourism going in favor. That is the foundation of medical education. You must have heard of Manipal Group.
Sir, please ask your question. Comments we can always have, because we all are waiting for, if there's any doubt, this distinct panel can answer it. Please ask your question.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry about it.
Sure. So we have put a small strategy for the destination of Mangalore together already. Okay, so what we want to know is, in India, is there any other such strategy for health tourism already developed? If so, we would like to learn from you.
Doctor, would you have...
Talk about that. So you cannot answer it right away.
Anita has this answer. You see, off the hat, what I can say that every state, as we have also discussed in the beginning, the idea of bringing this conference or doing this conference year after year is to create common platform. Of course, it is happening in Karnataka, Bangalore, and we are very proud of that because the government is very forthcoming. But it does address the country's issues. Unfortunately, every state has this state mechanism, and they do it in their own way. Goa has done some better part. Kerala very successfully able to brand it. But I would not think that, and there are key hospitals, they have their own strategy. So idea is today to bring everybody in this platform together to have a common agenda or common understanding so that we can take this forward. I'm sorry, I do not have a very, very specific answer for you. Is there anyone? Yes, Maria.
Has there been any thought given to pairing your art and cultural festival with something like an arts medicine or performing arts medicine for dancers, singers, speakers, musicians that would normally come to an event like that to tap into their needs as performers and create Bangalore as a destination that pairs up that kind of an activity with a need for that, or an activity in music for musicians and dancers and singers. Have you explored taking that cultural piece one step further and tying in medicine somehow as a side order, like French fries with a with a chicken sandwich?
Yeah, so, see, Maria, it's a very pertinent question, but I've come across one case like that. It's a very rare case. Okay, so now this goes into another part of Indian culture. We have great, musical traditions, Hindustani music, Carnatic music, and we have a very famous composer called Ilayaraja. Okay, he's very famous across, he still performs, and he's one of the greatest hits in Hindi and all, he performs across all the languages, comes from him. And I've heard, I work with his manager, and he was telling me that there's a resort which is coming up, okay, and it's very interesting that for people who have a certain kind of, India's getting pressurized, let's face it, So one of the core selling points of that particular resort was the healing power of his music. They were selling it, so you can come and practice it. You can do it in your resort, and so that's a very unexplored area of performance art as therapy. And I know but I've seen that in some corporates in Bangalore they do it, but it's not institutionalized. There are no champions for that. It's only like small experiments which are happening, but it's a huge place which people can come and they can learn. It's happening, and this is the only case which I came across.
The other one that I was wondering was when you had the slide up there about the language, the Kannada language. It seems like that would draw an audience of anthropology, linguistics, and the folks that are interested in that. But also, have they thought about doing anything with the DNA and precision medicine tied to something that's as unique as the language for the region, to tell more of a story of the culture, and with precision DNA and studies and testing and precision medicine?
Okay, see, I haven't heard of cases like that, Maria, but there are some parts of the scientific community are getting into those kind of things right now. Like you find research in the ISCs and things like that, which are happening right now. Because we are right now. Let's face it. We're just 60 years old as a country, and we are trying to find out about our Indianness. Where does it come from? For the first time, I'll give you a simple example. I just came across an article for canine DNA, and they started tracking it all the way to the dingoes of Australia. So those kind of things are just still coming into the country. But I think as time matures, I think surely there'll be much more research into those kind of things.
Thank you, Maria. Anyone else in this room have any question? Yeah. There are three gentlemen, actually. Thank you so much. We're going to come back to you. Yes, please.
Hi, my name is Prakash.
Yes,
I am from Pink Medico, a health and medical care magazine. Answering your question, see, in the month of Margari, that is in the month of December, there is an arts festival in Bengaluru. Where musicians from across the country come and do participate at various locations. So that is something, which will answer our question. Okay. Now, as a medical tourism facilitation, medical value tourism facilitator, one thing that is something, which I would like to ask is the information flow is something, which is terribly missing. The government has certain perceptions and they expect us to comply, but the government's mind voice is not communicated to the common man, and that's unfortunately one of the biggest problem here. How do we address that? Because compliance is something which is very key. India as a country is budding in the medical tourism department, right? We as a company, we do not know where to approach, who to approach, and what to do, what not to do, what are the do's and don'ts. That's something, which is terrific. And finally, we by ourselves, get frustrated in certain areas when it comes to compliance. So what is it that is in store for us? It would be kind of the panelists if you could enlighten us on this. Thank you.
Okay. Very valuable and pertinent question. And I'm glad our colleagues from ministry is available here. And I'm sure she will be reporting this back with a competent authority. But I completely agree with you. I think there are a lot of silos we are working on. Sometimes government makes policy maybe without taking sometimes the common causes or ground realities, or sometimes they do, but it is not communicated well to the people. In fact, I've met quite a lot of people now here, those who exactly ask me the same thing: where do we go to? If we have to build something, somebody just mentioned that I have a land, I've done it, how do I build? Do I get a government support? So all those silos that we're working on, so that's, I think, the work in progress. So,
adding on to this, Karnataka startup policy is only on paper. Ground reality is terrific, pathetically dismal. Unfortunately, I am a proud startup. And I can say to this audience that I'm a proud startup. But when it comes to the government of Karnataka's support, it is terribly disappointing. We have done a lot of innovation. I am very good at innovation within my team. But when it comes to the other side, the support is dismal. So what is it that we can expect as a support from the government side? That's something which we need to know, because unfortunately we go to various hospitals, we sign MOUs, we do all that, and then when we start doing the marketing, somebody says, look, what you're doing is not legal, then I have to shut my business. So we need to know, we need to take that informed decision, and that decision, that information must come from the government, which unfortunately is missing. Thank you.
Okay. Your point is absolutely, I'm completely sympathized with your frustration, and I'm sure it's not only in Bangalore or Karnataka, I'm sure some of the other states also, and there could be, reasoning and argument both the side. But as I was discussing in the beginning meeting also with the secretary earlier, the purpose of this conference is it should not be the end in the conference. Okay? The purpose is to bring people together, raise this valuable question, uncomfortable question, doesn't matter. But use this platform to ask those uncomfortable questions so that we can take it to them before addressing this. And this is what I promised to the minister as well as to the health secretary, principal secretary today. And in fact, I must give it to her. She's also in the same wavelength. She said, please bring me all those questions that which we are not able to do, what the ground level realities are. Sometimes, sitting there, they have hundreds of other things to do, so they may not have specific time or time and energy to look into every details. So it will be collective because government builds with us also. We are also part of it. So it has to be a collective effort to take it to them to answer those specific questions to be answered. And you heard the minister, even if he means whatever he said, 50%, and I'm sure your question will be answered like any other. Bangalore certainly recognized as the startup capital of it. Innovations are taking place here. And there are some great stories happening all around India. So one bit of here and there, we should not take it so seriously, but I completely sympathize with you. So please, let's feel free to talk to us, and we will be sending the questionnaire. And believe me, before the next year's conference we do, those answers will be addressed. So it will not be just coming and having lunch and then going back. That I can promise you. Any other gentleman here?
Prashant, just to add in here, to begin with, in this conference, we are certifying medical tourism facilitators.
Mm-hmm.
Government of Karnataka has already asked us to go ahead with the process and look at the criticalities of that. And in the airport, we will facilitate with the certified medical tourism facilitators list, along with the certified NABH JCI accredited hospital lists, is what we will do. And also in the Karnataka, like even the tourism secretary mentioned in the morning, that the website will have all names which they would have certified and work with them closely.
Okay. Thank you. Great. I think that needs an applause, please. Thank you. Any other gentleman had a question? Sir. Yes, please. Identify yourself, please.
Yes, myself, Dr. Sajjan. I'm from Mangalore. Two things. So one is about the tourism part of medical tourism. So how far the curative medicine and the tourism will go along? If it is going along, then what part of the government is making it more patient-friendly to be traveling as a tourist? Okay. The second thing is whatever the events we are seeing in the Karnataka, like in Bhuta-Kolas or Yakshagana, these are once in a year, twice in a year placed. So a patient who's traveling all around the years may not be able to see this part of the tradition. So could we recreate these traditions monthly manner, like to showcase the culture of Karnataka? The two things.
Would you like to answer? Please.
The curative part of it, sorry, that is the medical tourism facilitators themselves tell on their websites, or when they talk to the patients abroad, they discuss that aspect. That is one thing. Probably the doctors are not doing so much. But the hospitals themselves promote themselves in all these countries. So that is one way of doing it. The rest, when we talk about heritage promotion, that's a tourism aspect. So in this particular forum where we're discussing about medical tourism facilitators, we have to build that into this ecosystem. And probably that will develop as a different culture altogether.
Okay. Maria, if
does it answer
like
your question? Maria, would you like to?
No, Maria, would like to.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to add something to this reply. Usually, people are confusing medical tourism with vacation. The definition of tourism is not actually vacation. Tourism is going somewhere. So there are cases that a medical traveler, which is the term we use anymore, will go to a country only for the treatment, and when he receives the treatment, he will travel back. I see this confusion in several countries we go, and this is being asked by professionals or academics. The definition of tourism is anywhere you go and you're going to stay more than 24 hours, and the reason of your traveling is not business. This is tourism. You can go for religious purposes, you can go for health, but it doesn't mean necessarily vacation and sightseeing. So for those of you that do have worries that, oh, well, we have the medical part, but what are we going to do with the vacational part? You don't have to worry about this because it's not necessary. It's something different.
Very valuable. I want Grish to add very quickly that he talked about recreating and replicating this so that we have a round-year engagement program.
I'll give you one example we did some time back with CIA. We did this. So they initially came out and said, let's do a festival of India. And we started doing research for 45 days, and we couldn't even cover the 4 states between erstwhile 4 states, okay? The Telangana and Andhra hadn't split the time. And we didn't cover the entire art, let's say textile heritage, you take the dance forms, the food, we could not cover it. Because there's so many stories to be told, and there's stories within stories. You can take only Kochi, just to give you an example. Those are the ports of entry for the largest religions which have come here. The synagogues are being renovated now. If you take the temples of only Karnataka, Aihole, Badami, and you go that, you go to Vijayanagar Empire, Rashtrakutas, you can keep on going. So so in my earlier company, we had something called the Kingdom of Dreams in Gurgaon. And what we did there was, and I understand that Bhutakola happens only in a particular time, but what does he do the rest of the year? We can give him employment where he can actually showcase, talk about this. And the Bhutakola actually, why I got involved in that was, one of my hobbies is to collect antiques, and we found that the Bhutakola masks were sold in Germany for something like $50,000, which they would actually throw it into the temple tank. And that's what triggered my interest in this. And then we went on, and there's huge amount of literature only on Bhutakola, Kamsale. We can go on to the Siddhis, and only on Coorg you can do a museum, Malnad, Tulnad. You can go deep down into it, and these are stories which can be told over and over and over again. And that's how you keep your culture alive. Who are you keeping it alive for? It's for the present generation and for the visitor and the visited. There are only 2 points. And we can build these across even. When you say Mangalore, when you do things in Mangalore, let what comes out of Mangalore be prime. But use Karnataka, use India. These are things which we can keep. And 365 days is not enough.
I have time for one more quick question. The lady there, please.
Namaste, I'm from Nepal. My name is Indira Ranamagar. Actually, we are out with Bangalore because a lot of students from Nepal, they come to study, not just for health purpose. But I was just wondering because a lot of Nepali people, they're scared to go Delhi. My concern is safety because the people has the wrong concept in Nepal. India is dangerous for the woman. But I like to request how we make safe environment for the Nepali people, because even we do have a money, there is no bed, and a lot of people dying. Even the pollution, 17 people just died recently in Nepal. And there was a lot of hospital, but still there is not enough equipment. And India is our nearest country where we can get access, everything. So only my concern is the safety for the women. Thank you.
Yes, to develop any particular city or that safety user experience, as we put it, safety is part of it, accessibility is part of it. That is the prime importance to any city, not just Bangalore, for any other city in I don't want to compare city to city and kind of being, justifying that what this city, some of the incident happened, but you will be surprised that biggest crime against women, I'm digressing a bit, is in Sweden. If you look at the data, the biggest crime against women are in Sweden. India comes in maybe 6th or 7th position in this. But that is not justifying it. It's a work in progress. And sometimes this violence against women takes place due to several things. It's not just economical, cultural, education, upbringing, so on and so forth, economic issues, geopolitical situation. So it's a subject on its own. I hope that we, Nepal, we believe that it's a part of us as part of next door to us, our neighbor, and we have great history together. Barring maybe some incident in Delhi, I think most of the cities in India are very, very safe for the women, respected. But having said that, it's a work in progress with Citizen Forum, with the government, with the security, as well as the local education, basically. So I hope in the coming days we get to hear less this thing and able to create a more cohesive environment for all of us. Yeah, please, Krish, quickly.
Yeah. Just quickly tell you this on safety, of women especially. There's a larger move afoot with the government on safety aspect, safety itself. We are not known for safety actually in terms of, let's say industrial safety, personal safety. But now with social media and things coming in, there's a lot of pressure on government institutions to change that. The laws are being amended. For the first time, I want to tell you, we had something called the Upahar fire tragedy. I'm not digressing from the women's part, but I just want to give an example of it. In the Upahar fire tragedy, very powerful people who own theaters, they did not follow the safety thing. People burned to death. And normally in India, we think it's going to go like how the, the Bhopal gas tragedy went. But no, the courts went after them. They were arrested, they were put into jail, and they went into. So the law is making a determined effect to be demonstrative. I don't know what the pace is going to be, and also I want to tell you, and a lot of society is, I must tell you, friends and people who are very, very ashamed by what is happening. And I put it on the table right now. We are ashamed. We are telling our kids, my son, every time we educate him on gender sensitization, a lot of things comes from movies and stuff, and now the internet is like, it's all over the place and people are getting things, but that's not an excuse. But we are telling the people and the parents, and we're telling them to be doubly sure about these things. And we're making it open. The discussions are becoming much, much more open, and I'm sure it's going to go. It's not an endemic thing. There are things which are happening, and we are ashamed of it, and we are working towards it, and we'll do all that we can as civil society to bring these things in under control. And especially just like Saha said, Nepal and we have a very long relationship. Some of my best friends, one of my childhood friends is Nepali. Actually, so we have great things like that which are going, and it's not about Nepal or people come from Rwanda or Uganda. We've always been a great place for people who come, whether good times or bad times. During the Iran-Iraq war, we had both Iranians and Iraqis studying in the same college and same class here, and we were happy, to have all of them all the time, and we don't have that. It's not thing, but it's raising its head. I think the law is going after them, civil society is going after them, and I think one of the biggest tools is social media, because it's getting highlighted, and I think the TV channels are also doing the job right now. I think it's a matter of time and just keeping the pressure on, and I'm sure things will change.
So with this, we come to an end of this session. I'm sure you have your own takeaways from this session. I have certain takeaways from this. And I thought I will just spell it out, may not be in proper order, but so my takeaway from here that we understood to build a city which can be friendly for medical tourism is accessibility, integrated supply chain management, a story need to be told. We must co-opt local communities. We must create city-centric events, community events, to engage people and also to welcome people, those who are coming from here, outside. We must brand our cities with health, safety, and accessibility, of course. We must brand it. Last but not the least, particularly for this health tourism, we must promote our experts. India failed miserably, I think, in promoting ourselves in a right direction. We have all the ingredients. I think sometimes we shy away, or those who are overexcited, they start spelling out wrong things. Or sometimes it is not a coordinated effort. Everything is in silos. So I think promoting our experts, who are also our brand ambassadors. Here I'm talking about the health professionals. So they are our brand ambassador for this. And they do fantastic work. How much do we highlight their work into the social media? A recent incident put India on the map, and I was talking to our friends in the audience from Egypt. A 500 pound woman were transported to India for bariatric surgery. And that got a huge publicity. So this kind of things, we are treating people from Pakistan, free of cost. And there are several such stories we don't highlight. I think as an Indian, we always shied away from promoting ourselves. We always thought that our work should speak, but nowadays in the age of social media, when world is flat, people are getting their feedback every second. Unless we are in the forefront of that news, we will not be able to create. Only we are a cheap destination, will not sell for a long. So that's my takeaway, and I'm sure you will have your own takeaway along with this. And I hope your next sessions are fruitful. I would like to take this opportunity to thank you and my distinguished panelists here who shared with us. Please give them a big hand. Thank you, Michael. Pleasure.
Thank you very much, gentlemen and ma'am, for this wonderful session.